What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. This video is going to be another episode of Sunday Service, and if I'm not mistaken, this is episode number 7. And in this episode, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a little bit of a touchy subject here. I know that a lot of us deal with this. I know that a lot of us go through this. And I know that a lot of us have some of this that is unresolved and that we need to work through. And that subject is going to be trauma. All right. And as men, I'm sure that's what most of my viewers are men. And we as men go through a lot of trauma. And it doesn't get talked about a lot in society. We're normally told to just rub some dirt on it and keep it moving. You got to learn how to take that punch and keep it moving. And a lot of times we don't get to talk about our traumas, and it can play with our mental health, and it can play with our abilities sometimes to become the best version of ourselves and become who we need to be, not just for the people around us, our future families, our parents, our children, but for ourselves. And that's why I wanted to make this episode about this subject today. So let's dive into this episode. Let's dive into this subject and let's talk a little bit about this trauma. All right. So, the first thing I want to talk about is if you have been through trauma, I want you to know that I understand. And I'm not just saying that as somebody who is trying to say, oh, he's probably successful, or, he's making these YouTube videos, so he's doing something that I can't do, or, he might have this easy life. Look, I'm not going to dive into too much of my background, but let's just say I wasn't born with a silver spoon, right? I have had a rough childhood. I come from a pretty rough neighborhood, a pretty rough city, and I didn't always have it easy growing up. And I had a lot of rough times, and even today, I'm not successful. I still work a regular job, and I am just like almost every other guy out there, man. I go through things too. And that's why I just want to start this video off with that topic of I understand. All right. So, to break this down a little bit of going through things, and if you're going through things or if you've been through things and I understand it, we all normally go through our trauma as children, right? Or normally that's where it starts off. We start off normally with childhood trauma. And a lot of times we can't control that. We're children. We have no control over the things that happen to us in our childhood, right? We can't change our environments. We can't change the situations that we're brought into. We just kind of have to roll with the punches, right? And we don't understand the toll that that takes on us until we get older, right? So some of the trauma that we may go through as children might be like our parents neglecting us. um they might not be around, they might work all the time, so they might kind of just leave you to fend for yourself. um Mental or physical trauma, they might be, or I mean abuse, mental or physical abuse. They might be, verbally abusive, or they might have, put their hands on you a little bit more than, just, getting your butt whooped for doing something bad. And, or maybe your parents were addicts and they put you through some kind of trauma that way, and you can't control that. The only thing that you can do is just kind of live through it, right? I mean, what decisions are you going to make as a child to change that, right? You can't do anything. Or, maybe you've been bullied as a kid. Maybe you were chunky. Maybe you were from another country and didn't speak, English as your first language and you got made fun of. Or, maybe you were poor, or, maybe you didn't have a silver spoon growing up either, or born into the silver spoon, and, maybe you wore hand me downs and whatever. Maybe you just didn't have the best of the best. And a lot of the stuff that we go through, as I said, we can't control. So when we go through those things as kids, we don't really know what kind of effect that's going to have on us until we get older, right? And then we move into like our teenage years and our young adult years. And, when you go into like high school, middle school, high school, and you are maybe still being, maybe, you're bullied because, you were chunky as a kid. So you're still chunky, then. And, you don't play sports. Maybe you're a loner. Um, Maybe all the things that you've been through as a kid, maybe you start, hanging out with the wrong crowds. You start drinking, doing drugs, and partying, and you start putting yourself through that kind of trauma and the things that come along with that. Maybe you start hanging out with kids that are doing mischievous things and you're getting in trouble, going to jail, or getting brought home by the police, or getting in fights, whatever the case may be, and a lot of times the trauma from our childhood, as we progress in age, we start doing things that are even more, I should say, they get progressively worse. Right? I mean, I'm only being honest. So when we get older, we go through that trauma as well. Now, we can let that stuff make us or break us. We can either use it as a crutch, or we can use it as fuel to our fire, right? So you might, be able to learn mental toughness from it, and, you might be able to become mentally strong and use it to be more resilient and know how to bounce back from, failures as you get older. But a lot of times too, with things, we uh you know we tend to push it to the back of our mind, which is comes along with mental toughness. You're able to push that stuff to the back of your mind so that you don't let it break you. Even like having unresolved trauma, you can let unresolved trauma break you, and you don't want that to happen. So you don't want to be broken by your trauma, is what I'm trying to say. You want to be able to be resilient. You want to be able to move through these things. So if you have unresolved trauma, work on it, work through it. Go and see a therapist or talk to somebody who's not a family member, who's not a friend. Maybe you need to talk to a stranger about things that have happened so that it doesn't break you. And, if you're one of those people who can, push that stuff to the back of your mind, and you can be mentally tough and not let that stuff break you and let it make you into, the person who you're meant to be, by all means, man, you deserve a round of applause, because a lot of people can't do that. And a lot of people need help with their trauma, and it's okay to get help. It's okay to not be mentally strong all the time as a man. It's okay to go and ask for help. And more men need to understand that. It's okay to not be that macho guy all the time. Your mental health is more important than that, than being that macho man. I'm just being honest. It is. So a lot of people can't just push that trauma to the back of their mind, and they can't let that unresolved trauma go, and it tends to break them a lot of times. So before it breaks you, go and get help and get rid of that unresolved trauma and resolve it. Find out what it is that's been hindering you and let it go and get it taken care of. But now, to let it make you, in a sense, you can use those traumas in as a way for you to have direction in life, because you can see the things that you went through in your past, and you can use it as a way to decide which way you want to go in life, right? That's like, for example, say if you have two children, right? Say you have two sons, and they are born into a family of a mother and father who are, we'll just say, mentally abusive and addicts, right? Now, these two sons grow up and they have their own families, but they end up opposites. One son ends up just like the parents, and the other one ends up being successful and not like the parents, right? And the one who says, and if you ask them how they did it, the one son who ended up just like the parents is going to say, well, look at what I grew up with. Would you expect me to be anything else other than what I seen growing up? And if you ask the other one, they're going to say, look at what I grew up with. How would you expect me to be like the people that raised me? Or how would you expect me to live in the same way that I was brought up? So you can use the things that you've went through as a way to direct your life. All right? And the last thing I want to talk about is how to use it as fuel and to help create your story of success. A lot of us, when we go through things, we kind of let it hinder us from becoming that man that we're supposed to be. And we kind of let that be our story. And we let it hold us down from reaching our peak version of ourselves. And we tell other people our story and we say, oh, well, I had it bad and I went through this and I went through that, so that's why I'm like this. We need to stop doing that. We need to use it as fuel, and we need to rewrite our story, and we need to say, yeah, I went through this, but now I do this. I made that transition from what I went through to what I am now, and I used it as fuel to create momentum to launch myself from this to that. That's what we need to do. We need to not play the victim to the things that have happened to us. And we need to make sure that we just use it as motivation to get us started and to become disciplined and to become that person who we need to be for ourselves. We need to become the man that we've always needed, or that we've always wanted to be like. We need to become that person who you always wanted to be like. If you've seen these rich, wealthy, successful people, you need to use what you've been through to become that. If you see these sports stars and these people that get paid to play sports, you need to use what you've been through to work on becoming that. If that is, if you're, of age to still play pro sports, or even to be a YouTuber, an influencer, create a brand, become fit, whatever the case may be. You need to use what you went through in your past to make you into the man that you need to be and that you've always wanted to be, for yourself, for your family, for your future kids, whatever the case may be. But that's what we need to do for ourselves. We need to rewrite that story. If you have that victim mindset, rewrite your story and tell a new story about how, yeah, I went through this, but this is where I'm going and this is what I'm doing now. Guys, I hope that this video has helped whoever watches it, and I really hope that if you've went through things, or if you're going through things now, if you're dealing with things, that you reach out to somebody. Know that you don't have to do this on your own. Even if you have to comment under this video, if you need someone to talk to, I'll be more than happy to answer any comments. I I just know that men have a lot of problem with dealing with mental health, and just as a normal guy, from man to man, I I feel for you, and I want you to know that I am here. So if you need to talk to somebody, drop a comment and I will respond, and we can find a way to, you know, message each other. If you need to talk, I'll always be an ear to listen. If you know somebody who needs to hear this video or hear this message, go ahead and share it with them. If you have enjoyed this video and this video resonates with you at all, go ahead and like this video. And do me a favor, if you haven't already, subscribe to my channel. And I'm going to drop a lot of videos like this. I'm thinking about dropping another video a week, and to start doing 2 videos every week. Of course, I do the Sunday service, and I'm thinking about doing one more maybe on a Wednesday. Let me know what you guys think about doing that. And guys, I will see you all in the next video. If Before I go, if you want to follow my socials, my social medias in the description under the bit.ly link. Also, too, Lions Not Sheep is a great brand. I have their website in the description as well. And if you are wanting to learn new skills, gentlemen, look, we're in the age of needing to learn new skills, right? We need to be useful. We need to be an asset to people. Look, I have a link for The Real World by Andrew Tate in the link. I am a part of it. I've been a part of it for about 4 months, and I'll tell you what I've learned is worth way more than the price that you pay per month. I'm just being honest. Look, I'm 32 and I'm in there, so don't worry about age. There's men of all ages in there, but if you don't have a skill and you want to learn a skill, go ahead and join The Real World. It'll be the best decision you make in order to learn a skill, and for the best price possible. All right, guys, that's all. I'm out of here, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.